Welcome. Happy Monday to you. So today we will we're going to take a look at the physical body and our relationship to the physical body. This was something that came up, I think, on Friday. Obviously sparked a little bit of interest, so we'll delve into it a little bit more. So I'm going to say some things first, but it's important that if you really want to get the most from this, that it's an experiential opportunity rather than just an intellectual opportunity. So the intellectual is fine because I'm going to be saying things that will be addressing the intellect, but if you just allow it at the intellectual level, then the real value of it won't come through, because the real value is, as I said, experiential. So if you perceive that you have some sort of problem with your body, then it's important to understand that it's an experiential issue, right? I mean, you're not having an intellectual problem, you're having an experiential problem. So the intellectual content has to be able to penetrate to the experiential, or it has to stimulate something experientially. It has to stimulate an opening or a shift experientially. So to begin with, notice that you are here. So you could notice that in a number of ways. One way is you could try to think about it, right? You could think, well, yeah, I'm here. But that wouldn't really penetrate to the experiential. That would just be an intellectual. So take a look experientially. Notice the actual experience of being here. How do you know that you're here? And then notice what it is that is here. So there's the knowing of being here. There's the actual being here. And then there's the content. The content changes, right? So there's thought, sensation, imagination. So the actual experience is not dependent on the content. Rather, it's dependent on the actual experience. So the actual experience of being here is what I'm pointing to. So you don't have to be concerned about the content. The content comes and goes, the content changes. So there will be, throughout our time here today, there will be various sensations, various thoughts, various memories, etc. But there is a constant, we could say, of presence, of actually being here. So that's something to be curious about, and that's experiential. So just see if you can tune in to the actual experience of being here. And then keep noticing that, and maybe I'll remember to point that out as I say some things. So if you think that you have a problem with the body, then notice what you do with that problem. And when I say notice what you do with the problem, let me be more specific or point more clearly to that. So notice that you have this so-called problem. And you can fill in the blank there. Pain, fatigue, digestive problems, insomnia, whatever or a whole long list of problems. Okay, but whatever the problem, you fill in the blank. Notice that, well, again, notice this presence. Notice that you are here. Now, then you can also notice that this problem, whatever the problem is not always here. Isn't that so? The problem actually comes and goes. I mean, at the very least, you have to admit that when you're in deep sleep, the problem is not here. And you might argue, well, I'm not here either, but you are here. That's how you know that there was deep sleep. When you wake up, you say, oh, I was asleep. I said, well, were you dreaming? No, I was in deep sleep. How do you know? Oh, because you were there. Or rather, because you are here and deep sleep arises here. Okay, so this deep sleep occurs, the problem occurs. Both the problem and deep sleep can occur here. So you have to see that the problem comes and goes, even if you want to argue that it's constant in the waking state, which, by the way, it's not. But even for the time being, if you want to argue that, then you still can see, hopefully, that in the deep sleep state, it's not. And quite likely, even in the dreaming state, it's not. So then we can also take a look in the waking state. There are moments in the waking state in which the problem is not. In fact, there are a lot of moments in the waking state in which the problem is not. So this problem actually only is present some portion of the time, whatever that may be, but not all the time. So when you have this problem, now notice what you do. So you say this is a problem, and now notice that you fix the problem. And by fix, I don't mean try to solve the problem, but I mean you fix the problem in that you make it fixed. So now you've anchored the problem, and everything now is revolving around that problem. Okay, so for those who just joined, we'll recap because it's useful to recap anyway. So we're exploring the problem. So we have a problem, whatever that problem is, and we're looking at a problem. Specifically, we're looking at a problem of physical, at a physical level, physical problem. But hopefully you can also see that this applies more broadly, because any problem actually, if it's not yet clear, you'll start to see soon, perhaps, that any problem follows the same basic pattern. So we are here, and in this presence, we can see that the problem comes and goes. Whatever the problem is, in the deep sleep state, the problem is not here. In the dreaming state, probably the problem is not here. In the waking state, sometimes the problem is here, sometimes the problem is not here. Even if it's not here for just 1 second, well, it wasn't here for that 1 second. But we play a game, we fix the problem, we plant it, put the anchor, and now everything is revolving around that problem. So now we're trying to solve the problem. But our entire reality, our entire perceived reality, is based on that problem. That problem is the center of our perception. So what are we going to do now? This is very, we've created a very difficult situation for ourselves, because we've said the problem is the center of my world. And I need to fix the problem. I need to get rid of it. I need to solve this problem. Everything in my whole world is all about getting rid of this problem. But the problem is the center of my world. So what happens if I pull out the problem? If I succeed in that, if I succeed, hopefully you can see what happens. If I succeed in eliminating the problem, I've eliminated my world. Now, if you don't think that's true, just take a look, do an inventory of your life, and you'll see that the problem, what would you be without that problem? How would you act in this world? Think about this, the people who, your friends, family, whoever you're closest with, how would you relate to them without this problem? Wouldn't that be awkward? So I hope that it's clear that the fundamental mistake that we make is that we make the problem our identity. The problem is the core of who we take ourselves to be. And everything else is all wound up around that. So the whole of the personality is based upon that problem. And now here's an expression. It's a very American expression. So sorry for those who are not American, but pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So you've got this problem, and now you're supposed to solve the problem. How are you going to solve the problem? Well, imagine for a moment you've got a pair of boots on, and your boots are stuck in the mud, and you're looking around asking people for, hey, help me, I'm stuck in the mud. And they say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. That will do it. So, boots have straps on them. Some boots have straps on them. So I want you to imagine you've got these boots stuck in the mud, and now you're going to pull on your bootstraps. Is it going to work? Hopefully, it's obvious it won't work. And that's the problem that we find ourselves in. So you've got a problem, and the problem is anchored, stuck in the mud, and your entire identity, everything that you understand yourself to be, is all wrapped up around that problem stuck in the mud. Now you don't like the problem, obviously, because it's a problem. So you say, help, help. And everywhere you go, people say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So you're trying to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But it doesn't work. Does that ring? I mean, is this ring true? Is this familiar? You have a sense that you're stuck and you don't know how to get out, and for all of your trying, it doesn't work. So now, hopefully you see the impossibility of solving this problem from this perspective, because from this perspective, you are that problem. You can't solve the problem that you are. You are the pain. You are the fatigue. You are the fill in the blank. You are that. Everything that you identify yourself as, in reality, I'm not talking about in your affirmations. You know, you can affirm all day long, I am consciousness, I am spirit, I am free. But if you're not taking a look at how everything in your life is actually anchored in this problem, then those affirmations don't do you any good. The affirmations can help you to the extent that they reveal to you the lies that you have been believing to be true. So that's, from my perspective, the real value of the affirmation. I am spirit. And then there's the voices, bullshit. That's what I'm interested in. Take a look at that, because that's going to take you follow that thread back to where the problem, the core that's stuck in the mud, anchored here. So that's the fundamental error, is that we're trying to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. So in order to actually experience a real change, we have to question the primacy of the problem. Is that true? Is that the center of my world? Is that the center of reality? So let's take a look. Close the eyes. And become aware of the sensations. And become aware of the thoughts. So there are sensations and there are thoughts. So the pure sensation, notice that pure sensation is just pure sensation. So if I ask you to describe the sensation, anything that you're going to describe to me is actually a thought. It's not the sensation. Because you can't describe the sensation. The sensation is just pure sensation. So be aware of that distinction. Be aware that there's pure sensation, and then there is the thought that attaches itself to the sensation, and see how you can easily mistake the thought for the sensation. But in reality, it starts to become clearer that the thought is the thought and the sensation is the sensation, and they're not actually connected. So just do a kind of an inventory lightly of the sensations. See how you have stories about them, thoughts about them. So notice what are the aspects or the qualities of the stories that you tell yourself about the sensations. So you can see that the stories tell you this sensation, just pick a sensation, pick any, whatever calls to you, whatever's loudest. And notice the aspects of the story you can tell about the sensation. So you can tell a story about it. For example, you can say that it has it's either, you could say maybe it's sharp or it's dull. Maybe it's neither, but that's just an example. You could say that perhaps it's painful or pleasurable. You could describe it as good or bad. You could say that you like it or you don't like it. You could say that it's big or small. You could say that it's soft or hard or strong, weak or strong might be a better polarity. You could describe it, maybe you even think it has a color. That's a possibility. Maybe you have a location. Okay, so that's an interesting one. So you think this sensation has a location. Okay, now we could continue taking that apart, but we won't go too much more into detail on that right now. Now, notice another sensation. So maybe you can be aware of two sensations. And chances are you have an easy time doing that. If you have a hard time doing that, that's okay. That's totally fine. But if you can easily identify two sensations, then great, let's play along. So now you've got two sensations. Well, if you have two sensations, then they must have two locations. So can you find where they begin and end? So find the boundary between the first sensation and the second sensation. Now, if you're trying to figure this out through thought or through a model, then it's going to be pretty hard, because you have a perceptual model that if you were able to play along, then your perceptual model already clearly delineates between these two sensations. It says, well, this sensation exists in this place and this other sensation exists in this other place, and therefore they're distinct. But that's through the model. What I'm asking now is investigate at a deeper level. So drop lower level beneath the perceptual model level and see, can you actually find the border between these two sensations? So can you find first sensation and then see where's the center of that, and then Notice how far does it go, and can you find the end of it? And then second sensation, can you find the center of it, and can you find the edge of it? Does it actually have a border, an end? Can you find where it stops? And then first sensation again, and then second sensation. See if you can find, do they overlap? Is there actually a border between them? Can you find any borders at all? So conceptually, you still probably think there is a border. But directly, can you find the border? All right, so you're aware of these two sensations, or maybe you've given up on that already and you're already sort of in the sea of pure sensation, and you've given up on trying to find the borders and distinctions between various sensations, and you realize, okay, there's just this field of, or sea of sensation occurring. Well, now, where are you? So you, and this is not intellectual, this is experiential. So you have some sense of where you are. It's where you're perceiving from, and then you have a sense of where the sensations are, or where sensation is. And can you find, do they seem to be separate? Does it seem that you are separate from the sensation? Chances are, it seems that way because you go right back into this perceptual model. I'm here, it's there. It has to be that way because I am the observer, it's the observed. I'm observing it. So there has to be some distance perceptually, conceptually in the model. So you have a sense of yourself and where you are, and then you have a sense of the sensation or sensations or the field of sensation or whatever you want, however you want to understand it. Now, can you find the border between you and the sensation? Okay, so find yourself again. Where are you? And then see if you can locate the sensation. And if that's harder, that's fine. You know, if you just feel like giving up, you're free to do so. But as long as you can still have a sense of some separation there, just play along. So where are you? Find yourself. And again, it's not a conceptual self. I'm talking about your sense of where you're perceiving from. So you have probably a sense of location for where you're perceiving from. And you don't have to give a name to that space. You can just feel it, just sense it. You're perceiving, you're observing, and it seems that there's a location, maybe, probably. So just be aware of that, and then be aware of the sensation. Does there seem to be a distinction between you and the sensation? Is there a distance of some kind? Are you in one location and it's in another location? And if so, then see if you can find the where there's a distinction between those two locations. So there's the location of you, your perception, and there's the location of the sensation. So if that's true, if they have distinct locations, then there must be some kind of, either there's a border or there's at least an intersection. So can you find that? Can you find where where that is. What's the distinction? How do you actually, in direct experience, distinguish between here and there? Okay, so now become aware of your body. And how do you do that? How do you become aware of the body? Probably you become aware of the body by becoming aware of sensation, and then you very quickly link the sensation with thought. So you've got a conceptual model that says that sensation means the body. That sensation means the lower part of the body. That sensation means the upper part of the body. That sensation means the left side of the body. That sensation means the right side of the body. And notice, even as I say those things, how easily you can travel through that model, right? Just see how effortless that is. Left side of the body, right side of the body, top of the head, chest, nose, back of the head, upper back. So where is the body? Where is the body? So you can see maybe conceptually, okay, where are you? Where are you? Find yourself, your sense of where you perceive from. Notice how, and maybe that's shifted, maybe that's become a little bit more open for you, but still it's likely that it's pretty accessible, that you can locate where you are, where you perceive from. So it's because it's very habitual. We're accustomed to it. We do that all the time without realizing it. So here I am, I'm perceiving from here. Now, where is the body? So notice that the body, most likely, now it could be different. Different people have different experiences. So anything could be possible. For most people will notice that they have their conceptual model places them as the perceiver inside of the body. So there's the felt sense of the body that's modeled in 3 dimensions, and then inside of that is the perceiver. So I'm inside the body is the usual perception. Doesn't matter, whatever your perception is, it's fine, but just observe your sense of the body, your model of the body, and then your sense of where you perceive from, the location of you as the perceiver. Now, if you have a sense that you as the perceiver are somehow distinct from the body, see if you can find what that distinction is in direct experience, not conceptually, but just explore to find. So where are you? Find yourself as the perceiver, and then find the body, and then see if you can find where is the distinction between the perceiver and the body. See if you can find that. Okay, so now become aware, if you're able to, then become aware of a point Well, yeah, let's just do it in the chest. So become aware of a point in the center of the chest. So just be aware of a point in the center of the chest and allow your awareness of that point in the center of the chest to begin to grow. And as it grows, I want you to feel the vibration of that point in the center of the chest. It's vibrating and growing. And as you inhale, imagine that the energy is coming in through your skin and it's all filling, coming right to that center of the chest, and it's filling that with light and energy. And as you exhale, that light and energy gently expands, radiating outward in all directions through the inner body, so that your body starts to be filled with this light. So as you inhale, you imagine that energy is being drawn gently through the skin, and it's all coming to this point in the center. And as you exhale, that light radiates and fills the body. So now notice yourself and see if you can notice yourself without a location. So you can just drop all of the imagery and everything. Just be aware of yourself, just gently aware of yourself, and see if you can be aware of yourself without a location. And if you can be aware of yourself without a location, then start to just explore yourself. So just notice yourself. Notice how you have no location, no boundary, no limitation, no form. Now, where is the problem? And maybe you can't find the problem, or maybe you can find the problem. Either is fine. So there's not a right or a wrong answer here. This is just an inquiry. It's actually to become more aware of yourself. So honesty is the only requisite. So you're aware of yourself. Hopefully you can be aware of yourself without a location, without any boundary. Which doesn't mean that locations and boundaries might not arise in your perception. They certainly might, but you can observe them and notice that they arise within you, and you do not have any boundaries or limitations or location. And then see if you can become aware of the problem. You don't have to try too hard. If you don't want to make the effort to become aware of the problem, then just don't. But if you notice the problem, if you can become aware of the problem, I want you to just observe how you construct that. So there's some sensation. And then there's the thought that is attached to the sensation. And you believe that that thought and the sensation go together. So notice yourself without a location. When I say without a location, I mean without a relative location. So you might still have a sense of yourself being here, but here is not distinct from somewhere else. So it's not that you become a void, rather it's just that you become aware of yourself without the relative location. And then see if you can become aware of the problem. And just if you can't, that's fine. But if you can, just be aware of it slowly, gently, lightly. Notice how, if it's been the core problem, if it's been a big problem, then the habits are strong usually to leap into it really quickly. But just explore it slowly and see how it comes to be. And then see if you can allow it to dissolve. So how can you allow it to dissolve? Notice its constituent parts, the sensation. Be aware of the pure sensation. Notice the thoughts that might be attached to it and see that the thoughts are actually independent. The sensation is independent. Any images are also independent. Just stay with the pure sensation and just be aware of the pure sensation, and see, you can go through the same exercise. See if that sensation seems to have qualities, and also in particular, see if it seems to have a location. See if you can find the edges or the end, the boundary of the sensation. See if you can find it as distinct from some other sensation. And if you can, see if you can find where they are, how they are separated in direct experience. And at a certain point, it will start to merge, because you'll drop below the conceptual layer and you'll just be purely sensing. So there's just pure sensing occurring. And of course, the habit of thought, attaching thought to it, may still occur, but if you drop below the conceptual layer, then you remain aware at a lower level. So even though those thoughts may arise and attach momentarily, you remain aware of the lower level reality of pure sensing, where there are no boundaries, no definitions. So again, take a look and see if you can be aware of yourself without a location, without a relative location. So you're just aware of yourself as boundless. We could say awareness. You don't have to use a word, just be aware of yourself in a non-relative sense. And then see how here you are, aware of yourself. And even if at a subtle level, the problem still seems to be present, so it may or may not, but even if it still seems to be subtly present, notice how there's still something, it's less than before, it's subtler than before. So all that means in that case is that the habit is a strong one, and it continues to reassert itself, and you're still at there's still a subtle level of perceptual reality occurring, which is okay. Just be aware of that. But notice how it's subtler. So to whatever degree you're aware of a subtler dimension of self, just notice that. Notice how it's different than your habitual way. Notice how the habitual way all revolves around the problem. Now there's a difference, because now you're aware of yourself without the relative location. So you're aware of yourself as this in which all of the phenomena are arising, including the problem. So if you can just notice that, already something is shifting. Already you're noticing that I am not identified as that problem. I am this which has no relative location. I am that which is boundless, in which everything is arising. So, of course, if that habit of identifying with the problem and revolving around the problem is a strong one, then it may reassert itself. And if we just continue to indulge the same habits, then it will continue to be so. But now you have some new awareness, some new experience that allows you to recognize yourself apart from the identification as the problem. So you're aware of yourself as having a boundless existence without a relative location, without being tied to any of the phenomena, without being defined by any of the phenomena, recognizing that all of the phenomena come and go in you, not in a conceptual way, but in a direct experience. So be aware of yourself again, be aware of, and you might notice still the habits there of identifying as the problem. So when I say, oh, be aware of yourself, what do you start to notice that attaches to that sense of self? So you can notice what habitually attaches to that. I am this person, I have these problems, I have to solve these things, I've got that pain, I've got that dysfunction, whatever the thing is. So you notice that, and then notice also that what those are attaching to fundamentally has nothing that can be attached to. So who I am remains always pure. Always remains without a relative location. So be aware of that. Be aware of yourself in this way. And then you can notice how those habits assert themselves and just be aware of that. Notice how that requires effort, requires a kind of fixation, requires strain on your part. You have to do it. You've got to invest yourself in it, identify as it, put the anchor in the mud, start winding around it, trying to fix the problem. I am this thing, I have this problem, I have to fix it. I am this thing, I have to solve it. But for a moment, again, let go of that. Notice that you are directly, experientially, you can have this awareness. I am this without relative location. I am perceiving without a location. Everything that is occurring presently with not at a distance. There's no distance at all. And then you can start to see again how those habits reassert themselves. If I am this thing, I have this problem, I have to solve this problem. And notice how that requires effort, how you have to fixate, strain. Notice how it all has a certain momentum to it. There's like it's picks up speed. But you can just stop. So again, stop and just notice yourself. with no relative location, already free. So all the problem is arising in you out of habit. All the phenomena arise in you, and those that arise repeatedly, seemingly, are doing so out of habit. And if you allow that habit to continue to reassert itself, then it takes on more and more of a sense of reality. I am this thing, I have this problem, I have to solve it. But at any moment you can, now that you have had this experience of yourself, this direct experience of yourself as unbounded, as without a relative location, where everything is arising here, not at a distance, and where nothing can actually attach to you, because really you are you are already free. You are already can't be touched. So you can continue to return to this awareness, releasing those fixations, and then see how those old habits can dissolve, because they have no independent existence. Their only reality is the reality that is loaned to them by virtue of your investment presently, which you can again see the reality, how true that is, because in an instant right now, you can release the fixation and just notice yourself this, which is already free, already boundless, already pure, already without any relative location. So the more often that you return to this direct perception, the more you dissolve those fixations, and the problems no longer form the center of your world. So now, one more time, become aware of yourself and notice your aliveness. Notice how you are alive without having to attach that to anything. So you can just simply be aware of this aliveness and its vastness, its unbounded nature. So you can perceive yourself directly and your alive vastness, so that you can directly perceive that, get a felt sense for it. And in just a moment, I'll ask that you begin to open the eyes. And when you do, I want you to see that it's possible for you to remain aware of yourself even as you open the eyes, so that you can start to become more and more aware of how even the visual phenomena is occurring in the alive vastness that you are. And that can be easier to recognize if you remain aware of that, the felt sense of it, as you transition from having eyes closed to slowly beginning to open the eyes. So slowly begin to open the eyes now, while remaining aware . All right. So I hope this was clear. For those who are here live, we'll stay on for Q&A if you'd like. So if it wasn't clear, you can ask. And for those who are watching the recording on YouTube, I hope it was clear. Okay, so I'll end the recording now. Be prepared. There's the loud announcement as I do so.